Hello everyone, welcome to the Pro MMA Betting Podcast. So we're going to break down the card coming up this Saturday, where we've got a main event of Brunson taking on Edmen Shahbazyan over 3 rounds, late replacement main event. So UFC agreed to keep the fight at 3 rounds. First, we're just going to quickly recap on how we got on at the weekend as always. So overall, we came away with around a units or so profit. Broke even on pre-bets, made about a unit's profit on live betting. Used an unusual tactic for me on the pre-bets weekend just gone. There was nothing that I particularly liked. So I sprayed the board with underdogs because I thought there was a lot of lines where the favourites were just too big a favourite. So I had a shot on a lot of underdogs. So it was a risky strategy, but obviously when you're betting underdogs, you don't need as many to win as opposed to when you're betting favourites for you to break even or make some profit. So took a bit of a different tack. I kind of went in happy enough to break even with the way I played it, and I was hoping for a bit of luck maybe to give me profit on the pre-bets, and thought I was unlucky not to come away with profit on the pre-bets. We started the weekend we had a unit on Jason Jackson in Bellator, which we managed to get plus money, which cashed for us comfortably. Jordan mine looked, I kind of faded I partly faded him because he hadn't fought again for 2 years, second time that he'd had a 2-year absence, and won't go into it now, but that was part of the reason. It was part of the fade, and yeah, he looks done. I think he needs to retire based on that performance. So that cashed for us. And then UFC, as I said, a lot of bets, but nothing big. Everything was half a unit, just kept everything small. But I was on Betchico here for half a unit. Thought the line was off. Ultimately, I was proven wrong. Pani looked a deserved favourite. You can't get them all right. If you're picking a load of dogs, there's going to be some that you're off with. The dogs are dogs for a reason because they don't always win. The favourites do tend to win more than the underdogs. So that one wasn't a great bet. Had half a unit on Jesse Ronson at plus 210, which came in. Just thought the line was far too wide for someone like Nicholas Dalby. He's 36 years of age. He isn't a finisher. I didn't see him finishing Brunson. So, you're playing minus 300 for someone to win, probably by decision. Unless there's someone that goes out and dominates, it's a bit of a risky proposition. He struggled historically with Southpaw, so that came in. Kind of shot myself in the foot a bit, though. I did hedge a little bit I had a pseudo hedge in the sense that I bet the over because I thought if Dalby does win, it'll be by decision. So, put a little bit on the over, so that cost me some profit there. I was on Peter Sabota for half a unit at plus 150. I regret that one. I don't really regret the Betch one. Obviously, my read was off on Betch, but I was happy enough playing that one. With Peter, I was a bit more hesitant with him coming back from the 2-year layoff. He'd had quite a serious injury. And that one, I know he broke his arm in round 1, but he just didn't really seem to have the fight in him. He came in, poor game plan, hardly went for any takedowns. He was very hesitant because of the range. So that's a bet that's the one that I do regret from the weekend. So that didn't come in. Fabricio over Doom, that bet came in. We had him at almost plus 300. I put a tweet out on Twitter. I said it was madness. It was lined that Fabricio would lose 80% of the time. There was just no way in my mind that was accurate. I capped Gus about minus 150 favourite. So I should have gone bigger on Verdum there because I had a strong gut instinct for Verdum there, and I only put half a unit on him. I did hit his subline as well. I didn't tip that, but I saw it on Betfair Exchange at almost plus 600, I think, on the day of the fight. So I put some money on that, not much. I think about 75 quid I put on it. So that helped out as well with a profit there for Doom. But yeah, the line was just nuts, and it should have been a 1 to 2 unit play for me, not just half the unit there, because I did have a strong feel for that. So regret not going bigger there, but that cashed for me. I got a lot of slack on the YouTube comments for picking Verdum, and this goes to show, guys, I got the same slack when I picked Olinek against Verdum. This is all about value. I'm going to talk about this in a minute once I finish recapping. I was also on Tom Aspinall to win inside the distance. I mean, in hindsight, that should have been a max bet. I didn't realise Collier came in looking such a state until the day of the fight. I mean, what the hell? You just automatically had to fade that. I was on Bosa by decision, didn't come in. A little bit fluky. Pessoa caught that knuckle right in the eye, and I think it done some serious damage to his eye because he kind of quit. So I'm still not buying that Bosa's suddenly a finisher. And again, just like I did with the Brunson fight, I had a bit of a pseudo hedge with the Verdun Gustafsson fight because I really didn't see Gustafsson finishing Verdun, so I had the over there. If Gustafsson did win, I thought it would be by decision, so I did bet the over there, so I lost money there as well. And also, now the night came down to last two fights for me. If Lil Nog or Darren Till won, I would have profited on the live bets as opposed on the pre-bets as opposed to breaking even across the weekend. But Lil Nog got him at plus 160. No regrets there at all. Watching it live, thought he deserved the decision, but it wasn't a robbery. It was a close fight. Could have gone either way. And then Darren Till again, I thought he nicked it as well. But you know, I'm biased when I'm watching these because I bet both of them. But I bet them both at plus money. Feel a little bit unlucky that we didn't get one of the two decisions. You know, for two fights, it could have gone either way. Both of them went against us. A little bit unlucky. So across the Bellator and UFC on pre-bets, we broke even basically, and everything was plus money pretty much. Everything we played, and we had quite a few bets, but everything was small. On the live betting front, we had boxing before the UFC. Only made one live bet on the boxing. We hit that under 7.5 rounds on the Bentley Mick Hall fight. That came in for a unit's profit. We hit Nathaniel Wood by decision for half a unit at plus 150 for just under 0.75 units profit. And then I took a stab on Nicholas Stolze after round 1 at plus 275. If he didn't gas, I really think he had a chance there with Amiv. You know, Amiv's overrated. It showed again in that fight. And yeah, if Stolze hadn't have gassed, I really think he had a shot there. But gas tank let him down badly. So we broke even on the pre-bets and we won 1.25 units profit on live bets. So profitable weekend all in all. What I do just want to touch on, guys, is just with regards to value, because as I mentioned when I was talking about the Verdun fight, I had a lot of comments about, oh, you're playing Verdun. You know, I had some people, oh, you're playing Jesse Brunson. Guys, betting is about value. That is how you decide to bet. And what I want to reiterate is this betting podcast, it says itself, it's a betting podcast. I'm not just going to pick who I think wins like everyone else does on YouTube. That's not what this podcast is about. If you want to hear those podcasts, there's dozens of them out there where the guys will break down the fights and pick who they think wins. That's not how I do it. This is a betting podcast. So this is about finding value. So I will pick where I think the value is, generally speaking. Sometimes, even if I think the value is too wide, I might still pick the guy who I think wins. Like Calvin Qatar versus Dan Ige was an example. I didn't like the price on Qatar at minus 300 he was. Thought he should have been a smaller favourite. But at the same time, I picked him because my gut just strongly felt that Qatar was going to win that fight. But there are a lot of other fights where, you know, if you gave me even money, I'd pick the other guy. But if you're giving me a line at, you know, plus 200 or even plus 150, I'm going to go with where I think the value is. And an example of that would be, let's just take the Dalby-Brunson fight. If that fight was even money, I probably would have been tempted to bet Nicholas Dalby. But it wasn't even money. Jesse Brunson was like a plus 210. I mean, by the time the fight came around, I think he was like a plus 250 favourite, and he even opened up at, I think, plus 350. It's about value, guys. You've got to go with the value. Same with the Verdun Gustafsson fight. Like I said, I kept Gustafsson at about minus 150 favourite, and he was sitting out at minus 350. I mean, you know, 2 points difference. I've got to bet Verdun when he's almost plus 300, when I think he should be probably like a plus 20 underdog. It's just too much value to pass up. There's no way if they fought, in my mind, 10 times that Gustafsson was going to win that fight 8 times out of 10. So you have to go with value. I don't always bet where I think there's value. If I think there's about, sorry if you can hear that in the background, the dust carts have just arrived. If you think there's about a 5% edge, you know, I probably won't bet that. That's not my style. Some guys will always bet where they feel there's value. You know, I don't strictly follow the maths. I go with a combination of the maths and my gut feel and what experience from doing this tells me. But you can't come onto the comments questioning why I'm making a play, guys. It's betting. It's about value. Unless you can come on and justify to me why you think someone like Gustafsson will beat Verdun 8 times out of 10, because that's what the odds are telling me. It's about value, and this is a betting podcast, guys. So if you're not interested in betting, it's probably not the right podcast for you, because I'm not just going to go and pick who I think wins. I pick where I feel the value is. So please bear that in mind. It does say it in the title. I had someone even comment this week or last week saying, I listened to your podcast and you pick who you think is going to win going by value, not who you think will actually win the fight. Well, no, because it's a betting podcast. And if you don't understand betting is about value, you shouldn't be betting. You need to learn the principle of betting first. But we're going to talk about the card now. Just quickly, if you want to sign up to the service, guys, last year £100 per unit members won £14,500. All of our bets are tracked. There's links below this video to all the trackers. They're on the website ProMMABetting.com. If you want to give me a follow on Twitter, I often throw out a discount on the yearly on Twitter at ProMMABetting. As I say, everything tracked. Bet slips are posted. I don't cover stakes. I've got nothing to hide. I like to show that I am betting what I am tipping. My balls are on the line. So when members are risking their cash, they know that I am risking my cash as well. So everything tracked, fully transparent. It's the only way I play the game. We've unfortunately got a bad reputation in this industry. So I'm trying to change that with transparency. And also one other thing that I would like to mention, I forgot to mention it last week, is Gianni the Rat, or Gianni the Greek as you guys may know him, he signed up to my service. He bought a yearly using a pseudonym, signed up under some woman's name, so I didn't know it was him. He's been selling on my tips for the last 6 months or so. Absolute rat. Called him out on Twitter a few times. How I learnt about this was someone pointed out to me that his bets were very similar to mine a few months ago. So I just kept an eye on them, and yeah, every week. I mean, I think he uses some other guys as well. It's not just my bets, but generally speaking, the crux of his bets were my bets. So kept an eye on it for a few months, and there was, you know, once or twice maybe a coincidence, but just week after week, he was betting exactly the same bets as me. And then someone else on Twitter told me to check for a certain email address because he'd signed up with some other people on the sly. And lo and behold, that email address had registered with me under a lady's name. So the guy's a complete rat. If anyone is using him for bets, stop. The guy's not doing his own research. He's just selling on other people's picks. He didn't have my bets last week. Checked his bets for the week just gone, and they didn't carry over. This is because I've now found out who he was and I've actually kicked him out. But I'm interested to see if he does buy back in under another name. But last week was clear. I've called him out on Twitter. The guy's not even got the balls to respond to me. Complete rat, absolute rat. I've got no respect for him. I'd have more respect for him if he DM'd me and apologised. But the man is selling on my picks. The man is on nationwide TV in America, and he's using me to sell his picks onto his members. And I bet the guy is making a bloody bag load of cash every week, thinking of that nationwide presence he has on national TV. He must be getting loads of people signing up. So the guy's a complete rat. So I just want to put him out. But that's what he's been doing for the last, I think it was the last 6 months or so. Complete rat bag. So anyone following that guy, I'd advise you to stop immediately. But anyway, back to the card. If you want to sign up for the year, guys, it's only £195. It's peanuts. We can make that back in one night if we have a good night. If you're using, £50 per unit, easy money, free money. You can sign up for the live betting and pre-betting. That's included in the 195. This week we've got boxing live betting tips. Friday night we've got boxing live betting tips before the UFC. And then straight after the boxing, we've got the UFC. So we've got 3 events this week where there's going to be betting available. So hopefully we can make some tidy profit. I don't love this UFC card from a betting perspective, by the way. But we'll jump into the card now. Any questions, feel free to DM me on Twitter, guys. My DMs are open. So we'll start, as always, work our way from the bottom up to the top. We've got Chris Gutierrez, fairly quick turnaround for him, coming off that win over Vince Morales. I think he was on was it the first UFC show after the UFC reopened? He's taking on Cody Durden, newcomer. So, you know, Chris, a good kickboxer, very good calf kicks. We knew that going into the Vince Morales fight, and that was the first fight where they kind of really shined. I think he messed up Vince's calf within the first minute of the fight. Vince was just pretty much a sitting duck from there onwards. Cody Durden, I have actually got his last 3 fights. I've not managed to watch them yet. Someone sent them to me yesterday because they're not easily accessible. You can't just find them on YouTube. Apparently, he shows in them fights that he's quite a hard-nosed grappler, presses forward with a wrestling. He's not a fantastic wrestler, but apparently he's pretty gritty with it, and he pursued a takedown. Up until, I haven't watched them yet, but all I could find really was, I did watch a kickboxing bout he was in where he get a lot of low kicks, which you obviously don't want to be doing against Chris Gutierrez. So, you know, I will come back if I do change my mind after watching his last 3 fights, but I have to lean Chris Gutierrez here. I mean, the line is wide. Chris isn't the type of guy I want to be betting as a minus 350 favourite. But at the moment, I'm literally going off a kickboxing bout with Cody. So I will, if I change my mind, I'll come back because the line is wide. I'm definitely not playing Chris Gutierrez as a minus 350 favourite. He's not the type to go out and dominate fights. I know he wrecked Vince Morales, but the calf kick was an issue literally within, I think, the first 30 seconds. So he is very good with them, but you know, for me, he's a bit of a one-trick pony with them calf kicks. If you can't get them going, it's just, you know, his game is a bit limited. You know, but he's well trained. He fights off the back foot well. Nice stand-up. You know, he's not really a finisher normally. So this fight could potentially get interesting if Durden can get his wrestling going. But I'll pick Chris here. As I say, once I've watched Durden's last 3 fights, I'll come back and say if I think there is value on Durden. But I mean, at the minute, even without seeing those 3 Durden fights, there's no appetite for me to be touching the minus 350 there. Props are out. Let's have a quick look. What's Gutierrez decision paying? Inside the distance is plus 250. You're probably relying on him wrecking his calf and kind of having a sitting duck in front of him again if you're betting inside the distance. But Gutierrez by decision. I don't really like playing props at minus money unless I think it's a sure thing. And you know, minus 107, I'm not really seeing the value there. Over 2.5 rounds is minus 225. I thought it'd be a bit higher, to be completely honest, but I think it's just a past fight, to be completely honest. It's not a fight I want to get involved with. Jamal Emmers next, taking on Timur Valiev at featherweight. Valiev, bit of a touted prospect. I'm surprised it's taken so long for him to get into the UFC. Russian chap, I believe he's Russian. Trains with Mark Henry's stable. So with Zabit Magomed Sharapov, Frankie Edgar. I looked to have a look at his Instagram, or Mark Henry's Instagram, and Cody Garbrandt's there at the moment as well. So he's training with very good fighters at the moment. He has for many years, in fact. So he's kind of what you expect for a Russian coming out of that Mark Henry camp. He's got good stand-up, very fast, very mobile on the feet. Typical kind of style for a featherweight or bantamweight fighter. I went and watched his last 4 fights I had a look at. Valiev. Look, he is good. He moves well. He didn't blow me away. There's a lot of hype around him. I haven't gone back and watched the Gutierrez fights. I have watched him in the past, but I haven't got a good memory of them. I know apparently the first fight was controversial. But he done what he needed to do in those wins. I mean, he's not really a finisher. Even the penultimate fight he had where he did get the finish in round 1, it was a bit of a premature stoppage. The guy hotly contested the stoppage. He didn't look great in his last fight. I thought he was a bit low volume. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't. His morale was a bit low. I don't know. You know, he's 30 years of age. he still hadn't made it to the big show. He's had a few fights in PFL. I don't know. Maybe he felt a bit flat, like, you know, wondering where his career's going. When's he going to get the call up? But didn't look great there. He did look good on PFL. The fight against Magomedov, completely controlled that fight, and he was fighting up at 145 there, I think. This fight is at 145. He is really a 135er, so Emmers is going to have some size and reach on him. I think Emmers might have about 6 inches reach, but he's got... he can be taken down, but he's very good at getting back to his feet. He's got good wrestling as well, so he's a very well-rounded fighter, but very good stand-up. Jamal Emmers, a solid guy. He just seems to fall short every time he gets a step up. I mean, I know he beat Corey Sandhagen, but that was about 3-4 years ago now. Corey Sandhagen's improved a lot since then. But, you know, you look at his record, besides the Sandhagen win, he just loses when he gets that step up. Lost to Thiago Moises, got stopped in the 5th round. He lost in the Contender Series, got knocked out by Julia De Rosa, and then got his UFC debut against Giga Chikadze and lost a split decision there. You know, he's got a decent wrestling background, but he just doesn't tend to use it. He didn't use it against Erosa, against Giga. He didn't start to use it until the 2nd round. You know, I don't think he fights as smart as you expect or would want him to. He goes into these fights tending to think he's a striker and fighting like one. I remember I watched his fight with Rafael Barbosa, not when he was going to fight Giga, and he didn't take... I mean, he was winning on the feet, but he didn't... I don't think he used his wrestling until the 3rd round when he got the submission. So when you go into fights with him, you just can't trust him to use his wrestling. And I think he can probably get Valuev down, but I don't think he's going to be able to keep him on the mat. Valuev, from looking at tapes, very good get up. So I think it will be contested on the feet, this. Size could be an issue for Valuev. He is a natural 135er. Emmers is the bigger guy. He's got a bigger reach, but I think Valuev's he's gonna kind of dart in and out with the low kicks. I think it'll be a kick-heavy approach, and I think he's gonna kind of edge his way to a decision. I don't think it's going to be anything spectacular. I think it could end up being a close fight. I'm not particularly in love with... I mean, money is coming in on Emmers. Valiev opened at like -300, and now he's down to it's about -160 at the moment. So money is coming in on Emmers. I just see it as a close fight. I mean, I guess value for me is probably with Emmers, but I'm still picking Valiev here just because Emmers, as I say, he just seems to wet the bed when he gets to step up. And, you know, stylistically, he's not got an easy fight here again. You know, I mean, Erosa probably was a fight he should have won, but saying that, he could have beaten Giga if he fought smart and used his wrestling more. That was a winnable fight. I was going to say he tends to be given difficult fights, but I think he makes the fights more difficult than potentially they could be. But here, I do think his wrestling will be nullified. So I'm going to go Valiev, but I do think it will be a close fight for sure. Let's have a quick look on the props on that one. I mean, neither guy is really... I see this going the distance. Over 2.5, yeah, it's too juiced. Look at the decision lines. Emmers to win by decision is +250. I mean, that's not bad. Like I always say, when you're betting an underdog, if you want to bet the prop, you're better off just sprinkling it and betting the money line. But for someone like Valiev, decision is +110. I mean, at least it's plus money. See whether it holds on. I don't think that's out of a lot of books yet, but, you know... +110 isn't bad. I don't see him finishing Emmers. He's not really a finisher. But who knows? Maybe he'll come out with a bit more zeal as it's his UFC debut. But I just think that's got close fight written all over it. I don't have a massive lean either way there. But I'm going to pick Valiev by... I'll pick Valiev. No, I'm going to stick with... I'm going to pick Emmers. He's the underdog. I think it will be a close fight. I'm not as high on Valiev as some people. You know, there's a lot of hype around him, but I wasn't amazed by him when I done tape. So, I mean, he is losing value though. If the people that got on Emmers when he would have been like +250, when Valiev opened at -300, definitely got good value. But people have been betting him down. He's down to +140 now, so the value's starting to evaporate. But I'm going to pick the underdog. I'm going to go with Emmers. Spice the Markus Perez next. Perez, Minus 200 favourite. I just can't bet Markus Perez as a decent sized favourite. He lacks structure to his game. I don't like betting on fighters that lack structure. He can slow down in fights as well. He's stand up. He's got a good body kick from his southpaw stance, but he just throws, he'll throw an overhand. He'll throw like a spinning up elbow. It's just a lot of low percentage stuff that he throws in. He doesn't put combinations together. He's just tough for me to trust with that lack of structure. But he's tough to finish. He's never been finished, and he is athletic. He's difficult to take down when he's fresh because of his athleticism. And he does have some nice submissions in transition. You've got to be really careful. He caught Ian Heinisch in LFA with a really nice submission. Arm triangle from bottom, which you very rarely see. Anthony Hernandez, he wrapped up a really nice anaconda choke after hurting him to the body. Submitted James Boknovic. So you've got to be careful with his submission game. But he has lost to, in the UFC, his wins are over Hernandez and Boknovic, and he's lost to Andrew Sanchez and Wellington Turman in his last fight. So, 2 and 3 in the UFC. Eric Spicely, second run in the UFC, surprising second chance. I think it's because he got a late notice call up against Darren Wynn. So if he loses this fight, I imagine he's probably cut again. Lost to Darren Wynn in a competitive, stand-up, entertaining fight. I think he got a 50k bonus for that fight. Spicey's very dangerous on the mat. You can't count the guy out. He defeated Thiago Santos, remember. He's dangerous on the ground. He had a good first round against Gerald Meerschaert. Took him down, had his back the whole round, but ended up getting put away with a kick to the body. His stand-up has improved. After he got cut from the UFC the first time, he went away and won a couple of fights by TKO. And in the Darren Wynn fight, you could see stand-up has improved. But, he trains at TriStar now. He trains a lot with Andrew Sanchez. But, he's just athletically, he's not, he doesn't have it. He's going to be at a big athletic disadvantage here. But he does train at TriStar now. He's going to come in with a game plan, probably to try and withstand Perez's initial onslaught in round 1 and hope Perez starts to slow down. But I have to pick Perez here. I don't like the number for betting him at all. Minus 200. I went into thinking maybe Perez was a bet, but just that lack of structure just is a pass for me. I don't really know where the value is on this fight. Perhaps it's with the over 1.5. Markus Perez is very durable. He's never been finished. Now, Spicy does have a good submission game, so if he does end up on Perez's back, in some kind of scramble, it could get dicey. But Perez is durable. Spicy isn't so durable. He's been finished in 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of his UFC losses have been inside the distance. 3 of them in under 1.5 rounds. His first fight that he lost in the UFC that went to a decision was the fight with Darren Wynn. So, yeah, it could be sweaty. He can be put away. But Perez is just... he got put away with a body kick by Gerald Meerschaert. It's not a great look, is it? Gerald Meerschaert putting you away. He got guillotined by Sam Alvey even when he was desperately trying to take him down. Submission loss to Sam Alvey, a KO loss to Gerald Meerschaert. Not the best looks in the world at all. So I do think he's improved a bit from that first UFC run. So, it's at minus 145 the over. I think you are looking at Spicely having to survive. I don't see him finishing Perez in under 1.5 rounds. I think if anything, that's the play on that fight. But it could be a sweaty one. Let's move on to the next fight. So next up we've got Ray Borg against Nathan Maness. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. So Ray Borg back up at 135 here. Look, he's better at 125. That's a fact. I don't know if he can make the weight or not. Is he being lazy? He is pretty thick now, Ray Borg. He's not, a lot of the 125ers have got quite thin frames, but Borg is quite thick. So maybe his body's just outgrown it and he's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because he's just not big enough for 135 either. He's definitely better at 125, but the guy's a phenomenal grappler, brilliant scrambler. can keep a ridiculous pace. I've never seen him slow down. I think he's the only fighter I've seen that's scrambled Juicio Formiga. So there's a lot to like about his game. And last time out against Ricky Simon, he really showed improved hands. Hands are coming along. He's got some spite in them. He's got some speed. He's got some power even by the looks of it. I mean, Ricky Simon did not like those hands, especially in the third round. And he made that fight pretty close in the end. I had a bet on Ricky Simon there. I thought the size was going to be too much, which it was in the wrestling department. But Ricky Simon was struggling to keep him down because Borg, he's a good scrambler. And on the feet, the second half of the fight, it got really dicey. So he's taking on a guy here who is he's a big guy. He's got a good frame for 135, so he's going to be at a size disadvantage. But watching tape on Maness, he's all of his fights that I watch are stand up, so you don't get a feel for what his takedown defense is like, what his scrambling's like, etc. He comes across as a fully fledged striker. Against someone like Taylor Lapillus, where he was getting, he got destroyed for the whole of the fight. It was all Lapillus. He didn't try and take Lapillus down, so it suggests to me that he just doesn't have a decent or high level ground game to me. Otherwise, why would you not be trying to take him down if you're getting owned on the feet? And you watch all of his fights and he's happy to stand in all of them. Look, I understand if you're winning the fight, why would you take it to the ground if you're winning the stand up? But against someone like Taylor, where he was losing on the feet, it's like, you've got to try and get the fight to the mat, and he just seems like a fully fledged stand-up guy to me. So his stand-up's okay. He's not a bad striker, but Taylor Lapillus is a very good fighter, and I'd like to see him back in the UFC. But he got completely owned by Lapillus, so he's not a world-class striker. Maness, he's an okay striker. So for me, I'm making an assumption here because we haven't seen his ground game. But if his speciality is a striker, and he's not world-class in that field, then I can't see how he's going to be. And you'd have to be a world-class defender of takedowns and scrambler to deal with Ray Borg. And the assumption I'm making here is he's not. Otherwise, it's something we would have seen from him. And if you're not at that level in your own specialist area, which he's a striking, then I just can't in a million years see him being a specialist at grappling to a level to deal with Ray Borg. So I expect Ray Borg to come out here, fight smart, stick to him like glue, like he always does, and just wear this guy out. Maybe the takedowns won't come easy first of all, but Ray Borg's relentless. I think eventually he'll start dragging him to the mat. Even if Maness is working back to his feet, he's going to get taken back down. Borg can just do that for 3 rounds, no problem. He's just going to wear the guy out. And I like Ray Borg here a lot. I think it's a good fight for Borg. 135. I'm not sure where his seeding is because he is a bit small for it, but I think a fight like this is a winnable fight for him. And there was an interview with Maness as well. A lot of red flags. He's only had a couple of weeks' notice. I don't think he'd really been training. He's been working. He's a roofer. He was going to pack it all in. Just a lot of red flags. I just can't see him being able to deal with someone like Ray Borg. The odds aren't out yet for submission, but I'm interested to look at Ray Borg's submission because at the moment Ray Borg inside the distance is sitting. It's been bet down actually. It's plus 335 now. It was up at like plus 400, which made me think submission was going to be about plus 450. But if Borg inside the distance is now plus 335, submission the minute would probably come out around plus 400. But that's still something I'd be interested in looking at. So pick is Ray Borg there for me. Next fight we have Ed Herman taking on Gerald Meerschaert. So this is a fight, guys, where it goes back to where I'm talking about value. If this was a pick'em fight, would I have any interest in betting it? No, I wouldn't. But Ed Herman is like a plus 160 underdog here. I don't agree with that at all. I think this should be a pick'em fight. He's old Ed, but he's the established light heavyweight. Gerald's never fought a light heavyweight before. I mean, Ed did used to be a middleweight, but his frame's really filled out as he's gotten older, and he's a decent sized light heavyweight now. There's no way he'd be able to make middleweight. He's tough. He's good in the clinch. He's an ex-Team Quest boy, old school guy, Ed Herman. He is getting up there in age, but he's coming off a couple of wins. You could argue that he could have maybe got the decision against Vicente. He's a southpaw. He's got a nice right hook counter that he uses pretty well, which could come handy here against Gerald Meerschaert. He was trying to catch Vicente with it, couldn't quite nail it. Oh, he did catch him a few times with it, but I can definitely see it coming into play here. Sorry, Ed's orthodox, so he's got a good left hook counter. The reason that it could be useful for him here is because he's facing a southpaw, so the left hook counter comes in quite handy. So when Gerald does try and step into the space, which if he does push forward, I can see Ed waiting to time that left hook counter. So that is a weapon that he's pretty good with. So it will be there for him against Meerschaert. And he's just tenacious, Ed. He's only been knocked out a couple of times in his career. Once was a knee injury, so it doesn't count. He got a Krylov head kick, knocked him out, and he got stopped by Derek Brunson really early, like the first 30 seconds. Just that happens from time to time to fighters that do have good chins. They just get caught cold just early. It does happen. So for someone of his age with his number of fights, guy can take a whack. Watch his last couple of fights. I know that Russian's a bit of a mess, but the guy can crack, and it takes them and waves him on, and he takes some digs from Vicente, who, for all his faults, Vicente, can dig, and they're big guys. They're true light heavyweights. Gerald 7 weeks ago was stopped by Ian Heinisch, so it's a quick turnaround for him. Not really sure why he's taking this. Obviously, there's a lot of fighters that are doing quick turnarounds at the moment. A lot of it's probably to do with money. They can get a second payday really quickly. I wonder if the UFC are telling these guys as well, look, it won't affect your stock with the company. If you do take the fight and lose, you're doing us a favour. I wonder if there's a bit of that going on as well. Because I can't see it being ideal. Stopped 7 weeks ago and now he's coming back and he's moving up to light heavyweight. His stand-up does seem to be improving, Gerald. He had a rough first round against Anders, but then he came back into the fight. Was unlucky probably not to get the decision in that fight. Could have gone his way. Kevin Holland as well. Decision there could have gone his way. He has had a couple of unlucky decision losses, to be fair to him. Gerald is, like Ed, he's slow. He's the one moving up in weight here, so is he going to be the quicker guy? You'd think so, but Gerald also slows down. So after a round, is the speed advantage, which won't be big anyway, is that going to evaporate after a round? I like Ed's cardio more here, just to someone that kind of can grit well through 3 rounds. So it's an interesting fight, but I just think the line's off. I just think it should be a pick-em. I don't think Ed should be plus 160 here. So I just think that's silly. I really thought he was going to get bet down to even money. It's Wednesday, so there could still be Ed money come in, but Ed started to get bet and it went back up, and I just don't understand that. Gerald Meerschaert, for me, he's got no power. I know he hurt Darren Wynn, but Darren Wynn's just, God knows what that guy's going to do. He's just, he's not a middleweight. So I don't see him being able to stop Herman with strikes. He's very good with submissions, Gerald, but he's going to have to get Ed down and keep him down to go there. I think that's going to be difficult for him as well. And, Ed Herman, honestly, I can see 3 paths to victory here. It would not shock me if he won a decision, if he knocked Gerald out, or... submission does seem unlikely, but for someone who is plus 160, for me, it's a no-brainer. Obviously, it's not a big bet. Ed Herman is nearly 40. He's slow. He's plodding, but I just think this is a good fight for him. He was meant to be fighting Jung, the Chinese fighter or Korean fighter, who was a horrible matchup for him. Jung probably was going to knock him out. Fast hands, good straight punches. It was a bad fight for Ed, but he's had a bit of a result here getting Gerald Meerschaert. It's a much more winnable fight for him. And I'm going to pick Ed here as the underdog. I think the line's off, so I've got to go where I think the value is. So Ed Herman for me. Frankie Saenz taking on Jonathan Martinez next. Went into tape thinking Martinez was about minus 180 when I started looking at tape, but I just can't. I can't bet Martinez as a sizable favourite. The kid's improving, but he's still very green. Takedown defense looks suspect. We haven't seen it in his last couple of fights because they've been stand-up affairs. He's definitely decent on the feet. He was unlucky not to get that decision win over Andre Ewell in his last fight. Before that stand-up fight with Ping Young Lu, who he comfortably won and got the knockout in the third round. But if you watch the fight with Luigi Burren and even the Sukumtov fight, he's getting taken down, getting reversed in positions. Not what you want to see really against Frankie Saenz, but it's just where his Saenz at. He's nearly 40. He's coming off a knockout loss to Marlon Vera where he got dropped with a jab. Is his chin starting to fade him? I don't want to write his chin off just because of, he got caught by a jab and dropped. Sometimes, as I've said on here before, sometimes you just get caught in the sweet spot and you go down. Before that, he beat Enrique Brions and he got that controversial win over Merab Devishvili. But what the Devishvili fight did show is the cardio of the guy, because he kept getting taken down, he kept getting back to his feet. Everyone knows how relentless Merab is, but that was, you're getting on for nearly 3 years ago now, and no one defeats Father Time. And Saenz is a 39-year-old. He's almost 40. He's 40 on the 12th of August, according to Sherdog. So, it did look like the Vera fight was maybe a sign of Father Time starting to catch up with him. But he's got very good wrestling. He's had some tough fights stylistically. Merab, you're not going to out-wrestle him. Augusto Mendez, world-class jiu-jitsu guy. You're not really going to go in looking to wrestle him. Eddie Wineland, very difficult to take down. Uriah Faber, you're going to struggle to out-wrestle that guy. And I remember he gave Uriah a decent fight as well. So, they were 4 fights in a row he had where he couldn't really use his wrestling. Did use it against Briones. Got him down multiple times. I don't think until the third round he managed to hold Briones down though. Briones was getting up to his feet pretty quickly until the third round. And then he's coming off the loss to Vera. So it's just hard to know where Saenz is at. The Briones fight was a couple of years ago now. And when you're a bantamweight fighter at 40, the wheels can slide off really quickly. So I'm going to pick him here just because, Martinez has been bet up even more now. People are obviously parlaying him up. He's up to like minus 255. Yeah, Martinez is very young and he is improving. So I would not be shocked if Martinez comes out here and he manages to get the knockout. He has got good stand-up. And Saenz is 40. Look, I'm going to pick Martinez. I'm not even going to pick Saenz here. But I definitely wouldn't be betting Martinez. But I'm not going to go against my gut. My gut just says that Saenz is going to lose this fight. 40 years of age. At 135 pounds, it's never good. He's coming off a bad look against Vera, being dropped with a jab. And Martinez does have nice stand-up. He fights long. He's got, he's southpaw. He's got a lovely body kick. I think he will win this fight. But if Saenz can get the wrestling going, get the grind on, it's definitely a winnable fight. If we're going, Martinez's takedown defense hasn't drastically improved because it definitely looked suspect against Buren. Didn't look great against Sukumtov either. And, just some of the, he does try and scramble to his feet, Martinez, but just some of the stuff he does, just in terms of jiu-jitsu, is pretty basic. And it shouldn't have been working, some of the stuff, but he got away with it because it was like Buren just isn't a very good fighter. Just some of the reversals he hit, like from half guard, just bridging and turning to reverse the position. That's basic stuff that you shouldn't be able to hit at the UFC level, and he was hitting it on Buren. So I don't know. He's at a good camp though, Martinez. So I'm gonna pick Martinez, but guys, I definitely would not pay that price. I don't think Martinez is a guy you want to be betting at minus 250 on the hope that Saenz is shot, because if he isn't shot, Saenz will make this a dogfight. But I will pick Martinez, but I do not like the price one bit. And realistically, the value is with Saenz, but I'm just going to pick Martinez just because 40-year-old 135er coming off a dodgy knockout loss where he got dropped with a jab. it just suggests to me the wheels are starting to come away, and Martinez is improving. So, takedown defence, etc. We haven't seen it for about 18 months because the last time it got tested was against Buren. So I'd expect it to be improved as well. So Martinez, but be very careful. Next fight, I think we're onto the main card now. We've got, is it Kevin Holland time? Yeah, Kevin Holland, Trevin Giles. Look, I would have bet Kevin Holland here if he was a slight favourite. I don't know, maybe minus 150. I would have thought about it hard, but he did get bet up to nearly minus 300. I don't know who the hell was betting Holland up to that price. He's about minus 200 at the moment. I expect he's going to stay around that price, probably get bet up a little bit more. I'm not betting Holland as a moderate favourite until I see some proper fight IQ out of him. The guy goes in, he seems to do what he wants, doesn't follow a game plan. He does a lot of talking. It's just, from a betting perspective, someone that's really frustrating to bet on. I think I've only bet him once. That was, I had a small bet on him against Gerald Meerschaert, and I thought he'd lost that fight. I didn't expect him to get the decision, and it was just so frustrating to watch just some of the stuff that he does. He's talked about moving down to 170. He was meant to fight at 170. In fact, after he won his last fight, he was turning around quick, but he pulled out the fight, I think, fight week. But this fight's back at 185. He's not a big 185er in terms of his frame. Giles has fought at light heavyweight before, so he's going to be the bigger man, Trevin Giles. But, I mean, when you talk about Kevin Holland being untrustworthy, well, welcome Trevin Giles. Dumb and dumber, these two. But I think Giles might be dumber. His fight IQ against, funnily enough, Gerald Meerschaert as well was, I don't know, maybe it's just Gerald Meerschaert just lulls you into these types of fights, but I don't know what he was doing against Gerald Meerschaert, just craziness. Zach Cummins, he gets caught by Zach Cummins in a fight that, he was probably edging, he didn't really do a lot, but caught by Zach Cummins, caught by Gerald Meerschaert, and then I tell you what, he didn't win that fight with James Krause. Bad decision. It cost me a lot of money because I remember getting Krause on live bet. I think it was after round one. I got him at like plus 500, plus 600, something ridiculous, even though he'd won round one. He lost round two big. Or in fact, I think I got him at that price at the end of round two because, as I've mentioned to you guys a few times, the books always overrate the round. Normally it's the round two winner. They normally give them too much respect with the odds, even though it's one round apiece. They've done the same there, just stupid odds. Giles gassed himself out trying to finish him. And Krause won round three, outstruck Giles. But as it turns out, one of the judges was Trevin Giles' ex-coach, and he gave Trevin Giles round one, which is just scandalous. It cost Krause the decision, and it cost me cashing I think it was plus 500, something ridiculous like that. So that's a loss. It's a loss in my book. He didn't win that fight. Krause took it on less than a day's notice. He's a welterweight. Trevin Giles is, he's a talented guy, but I don't know if his heart's properly in it. He's got a job. I think he's a copper or a police officer, as it's known in America. I think he trains full time. I don't know whether his heart's truly in it, but he's fighting for his job here. If he loses this fight, he will be cut, I'm sure. But I've got to go with Holland. Holland's a talented guy. He's got the highest ceiling for me. He's just got to fight. He's just got to sort out his fight IQ. But he's coming off a good win over Hernandez. He's got big length over Giles. Just needs to use it. Fight like he did against John Phillips in the first round. Use that length, and I give him the advantage on the mat as well. He's a good scrambler. He can put himself in some sticky situations, but I think he can snag Giles' neck. He's got those long, skinny arms, Holland. He's good at locking up submissions, and as we've seen with the Cummins and Meerschaert fight, Giles loves dolphin diving into dodgy submissions. So I'll go with Holland, but I'm not paying minus 200 on Kevin Holland, even against someone with possibly worse fight IQ than Kevin Holland. I'd need it to come down to around minus 150 to start thinking about it, but it probably won't. Next fight, we've got Vicente Luque taking on Randy Brown. Pre-tape, I thought I might... Actually, no, we've got Lando Vannata first. Let's do the Lando Vannata Bobby Green fight. Easy pass from a betting perspective. These two fought before. Lando would have won if he didn't have the point docked. Bobby Green came back in the third round. Lando done what he normally does. Starts well, nearly finishes, doesn't get the finish, and then slows down as the fight goes on. So it's just I've given up betting. I mean, I can't bet Lando Vannata as a favourite. The guy is just untrustworthy. Guys, I don't see how you can be betting him as a favourite. He's maybe toned down his style a little bit, but I think he's taken some quite short notice, and I know he normally has to cut quite a bit of weight. Bobby Green's not long removed from that win over Clay Guida. Decent performance from him there. Done what he had to do. Guida's a tough guy to deal with. This is also back at the Apex, guys. So we're back in the small cage. I haven't mentioned that so far. So just quick scan through the fights. Actually, I think it definitely favours Ray Borg. I think it helps Ed Herman as well. It could help Frankie Saenz to get his wrestling going as well. I think that's it so far, where I think it makes a difference to people. Or maybe Cody Durden, if he wants to if he can get his wrestling going, the smaller cage would definitely help him in that sense. But back to the Vannata Green fight. Yeah, it's just a pass fight. I don't want to bet Green either. He's not a big enough dog to tempt me, because he was kind of getting handled by Lando in that first fight. But if Lando doesn't get the big knockdown in round one like he did the first time around, and Green was clearly hurt, so it took him a while to recover. I don't know. It just screams competitive, close fight to me, and I've got no interest in touching it. I'll save any potential bullets for live betting. Who am I going to pick? I'm going to pick Bobby Green, just because Lando's the favourite, and there's no way I'm betting Lando Vannata as a favourite. The guy, he kind of falls into that Trevin Giles, Kevin Holland remit as someone you just can't really trust as a favourite. And when did we last see Vannata? Let's just refresh on his record, because it seems like it's been a while. He beat Yancy Medeiros, didn't he? He's definitely trying to pace himself better now. And before that, he lost to Diakese. He had his calf taken out from him early in that fight. And before that, he got that gift fight against Markus Mariano. So, yeah, I'll pick Green just because he's the underdog. But I'm not confident. I definitely wouldn't bet this fight. I'd rather save anything potentially for live betting. Next fight we've got is Randy Brown, Vicente Luque. So pre-tape, I wanted to bet Randy Brown. Post-tape, I think, I don't know if there's any value on Luque in that minus 180. I've held off betting it myself, but I think he wins this fight, in all honesty. Randy Brown's had a couple of good wins. He beat Barberina, who I think turned around too quickly after the Luque fight. I think he needed to take some time out. I don't think he looked himself in that fight when he fought Randy Brown. Now, that's not to take anything away from Randy Brown. Stylistically, he was going to pose problems for Barberina because of his movement. Barberina likes someone that's going to stand in front of him and trade, someone like Luque. And Brown's not that kind of guy. He stops into the body. He's coming off a win over Wally Alves. Wally just done his usual, spent his load in round one, and then ended up getting triangled. So Randy Brown is a good fighter, improving fighter, but he's very susceptible to low kicks. And this is in the small cage as well. I think that's really big for Luque here. The low kicks, we don't really know what Randy's chin's like. I don't want to assign his chin to the trash can, because he got KO'd by them hammer fists from the bottom by Nico Price. It was very strange. Maybe they just, I don't know, landed in the perfect place. I don't know. We haven't really got anything else to go off to judge Randy's chin, so I don't want to say he's chinny, but it's not a good look, and Luque cracks. The problem with Luque is he gets hit a lot. His last 4 fights or so, he's just taken so much punishment. But, his last fight against Nico Price, he didn't show any signs of going down. His chin seemed to hold up fine. And Randy Brown's not really a massive puncher, so is he going to be the man to put Luque away? I don't think so. I mean, Luque, I think the only guy to drop him is Wonderboy. He had a very good round 1 against Wonderboy. Wonderboy lost the first round, and then the second round he switched to southpaw. That's when Wonderboy started having all his success. So, Vicente's a solid striker, but he is a bit of a plodder. He's there to be hit. He does shell up, but I just think he's going to out-savage Randy Brown. I think the low kicks are really big for him here. Randy Brown doesn't check them. He's there to be hit with them all day. Luque will go to the calf well. You can see what Brown's going to try and do. He is going to try and hit and move here. That's going to be his tactic. But, Luque's wars are going to catch up with him soon. He's turning around quick here from another war with Price. But I just don't think Brown is the guy that's going to crack that chin. But Luque does need to change something up, because you just can't keep getting into them wars and getting away with it. They're gonna catch up with him. So I'm going to pick Luque here. I haven't bet it though. I don't really love the price. And even though I don't think Randy Brown's the man that's going to crack Luque and expose him for those wars he's had, I still don't want to completely write him off here. I think this is a decent test for Luque, because it's a guy that, he is a little bit like Jalen Turner, but he's bigger. He's better. He hits harder. I don't think, if he goes in there and puts Brown away early, then good for Luque. But, it could get interesting the longer it goes. If Brown is able to kind of hit and move well. But we've just seen him chopped at the legs too many times. And Luque, he throws a lot of leg kicks. He threw a lot against Nico Price in his last fight. Nico's kind of seemed to take no, he didn't seem to do much damage to him, bizarrely, but someone like Randy Brown's got those long, skinny legs. I can just see it being a big issue for him here. And the reach advantage isn't as big as you think either. I think Brown's got like 2 inches on Luque. But Luque will do what he normally does. He's going to come forward and he's going to hunt Brown down. So I'm going to pick Luque. But it's a fight I haven't bet. Let's have a quick look at the props actually. What's Luque inside the distance? Paid any good? Oh, it's even money. No, not really. I thought it might be a bit wider than that. Luque decision though. Plus 300. Do you think Brown can hang around that long? The over is set at 1.5 rounds. So, if you're betting the over, it's minus 170. You're betting, most likely you're betting on not Luque under 1.5. Because I think if Brown wins, if he did stop Luque, I'd imagine it would probably be later in the fight. But I think most likely is a decision for Brown if he was to win. Brown decision plus 450. The books think that he most likely wins inside the distance. It's plus 317. So, I don't know. Maybe the over. But then you're relying on Brown's chin holding up. And honestly, we just don't really know what it's like apart from the Nico Price hammer fist. And one other thing, Randy Brown's got pretty good knees actually. He's got really long legs. He hurt Nico Price with a knee. Another thing I've not touched on even is Brown's takedown defense isn't good at all. That's another thing Luque can go to. He doesn't tend to. He's pretty happy to strike, but it's potentially an option there. If Luque does need to start fighting smart. If Luque wants to mix things up, then the takedowns will be there. So I am going with Luque. His money line is similar to the over in price, so it's a tough fight to know where to bet, because I just think it's a little bit wide maybe on Luque, but I do expect him to come through here. Joanne Calderwood taking on Jennifer Maia. Maia is the plus 130, plus 140 underdog. Money's been coming in on her in the last couple of days. Calderwood was at almost minus 200. She's now about minus 160, minus 142 at Pinnacle. I taped this fight and Calderwood was about minus 180 when I taped it, and I thought it was too wide. I had it closer to a pick'em in my head, maybe JoJo's slight favourite. Maia will get the fight she wants here because JoJo does stand in front of you. Maia's a bit of a, she likes to have a bit of a brawl. JoJo, doesn't have the movement of someone like Chikagan, who they both, funnily enough, struggled against because of the movement. They both prefer their opponent to be, fairly static. We saw Maia struggle as well against, let's bring up her record. I thought there was another mover she struggled against, but she hasn't fought a mover in the UFC. She fought Liz Carmouche, who she struggled with the wrestling. Alexis Davis and Roxanne, see, they both they've got no movement. They just wade forward. They're good fights for someone like Maia, who is, who's fairly technical. Her stand-up's not bad, but she prefers someone who's going to stand there. Her footwork isn't, on someone like Chikagan's level. So she wants someone that's going to come to her, give her the fight she wants. And Jojo will. As I said, they both struggle with the movement of Chikagan. Jojo is more about the kicks as well. If you look at her stats, normally 50-60% of the strikes she lands in a fight are kicks to the legs or body. She's, you're going to have Maia landing more headshots here. Chikagan's going to be landing the low kick. So in a close fight, that can get dicey, because if the judges aren't rewarding the leg kicks as they should be, most judges do prefer headshots. It could make the fight a lot closer than perhaps it is, even if Jojo's outlanding her with the kicks. So that was one thing that when I came away from tape, it kind of put me off betting Jojo, even though I wouldn't touch her at minus 180 or even a price now minus 160. I'd need it closer to even to consider it, but even then I don't know if I want to. I mean, her last fight over in Dubai, taking on who did she face? Andrea Lee. Andrea Lee really slowed down in that fight. That was that weird event where it was in Dubai. The few fighters slowed down because of the heat, and Andrea Lee seemed like someone that was definitely infected. Jojo even mixed in some takedowns in that fight. Showed a bit of variety. She's training. I think she's out of Extreme Couture now. Has been for her last few fights. I think she's with the coach here, John Wood. So I see this being a good fight. I think it's going to be quite entertaining. Women's MMA fight, I know it can turn some people off, but I actually see this being an entertaining fight because they're both going to stand there. It's the co-main event, which doesn't really make any sense to me. But I do think it will be entertaining. I think they're both going to come at each other, and I think it's going to be a close fight. I'm going to go with Maia just because she's the dog. I'm not confident on that at all. The fight will go to a decision. I'm very confident. I mean, the over 2.5 is priced at almost minus 400. Maia by decision is plus 200, and Calderwood by decision is minus 135. So you can't touch that. You can't play that. You might as well just take Calderwood's money line. Maia though, you get a bit more bang for your buck on the Maia decision line. Plus 200 as opposed to plus 130, plus 140 on the money line. But as I always say, if you like Maia, take the money line and, sprinkle maybe 20% on the Maia decision if you like it and you want to try and get a bit more return on your money. So I'll pick Maia, but I'm not confident. But I think it will be a close fight. So, if Calderwood comes away looking, moderate favourite, then fair enough. But I don't really see it. She's not someone that goes in and blows people away. And if you look at, who she has beaten, Lipsky, who's just one of the biggest duds in the women's MMA betting field. Everyone was on Lipsky when she first came into the UFC. She's not very good. Kalindra Faria, who she was losing to until she got the choke. Then Valerie Letourneau, short notice Courtney Casey. Her best win is Andrea Lee over in Dubai, and Lee did slow down uncharacteristically in that fight. She can normally go hard, so it would have been interesting if cardio held up. But yeah, I can't trust her as a sizable or moderate favourite here. So the value's on Maia. I think when Calderwood was out at minus 180, minus 190, people would have probably got plus 150, plus 160 on Maia. I think that's where the value was, but I'm not confident, so I haven't bet the fight. I don't feel I've got a strong read on it. Main event is Derek Brunson taking on Edmen Shahbazyan. It's over 3 rounds. It's a late notice main event. I can't remember what the main event. Oh, it's meant to be Holly Holm against Irene Aldana. So it's over 3 rounds. really quickly, the money line's silly. Shahbazyan for me shouldn't be minus 300. You know, he's a hype job. You get these all the time in the betting community. People come in betting favourites. He's had some impressive wins. I mean, the kid is only 22 years of age, so you know he might be the next big thing. But the problem is, for all these next big things, there's probably you've got one that does turn out to be the next big thing, and you've got 10 that don't. So, you know, if you play the numbers here and fade all these fighters that are hyped up, and have got, you know, unjustified odds over the course of a year, I'm pretty sure you'd come out in profit. So yeah, he might be the next big thing, but at the minute we're going off what? Darren Stewart fight, his UFC debut, where he, you know, eked out the split decision. He wrestled from the get-go. Didn't want to stand with Stewart. He gassed that bad. Stewart nearly stopped him in the third round. And then he's had wins over, a quick win over Charles Bird, caught him with the elbows. Charles Bird's, you know, complete fade. He's retired now. You know, the guy's got no heart. A bit of a quick job. Jack Marshman, he took down and submitted. You know, Jack's a tough guy, but he's got no ground game and just taken down and subbed. So, you know, those two wins, look, they're impressive. He won really quickly, but they're not great fighters. And then Brad Tavares. No, that's a good win. Brad's a good fighter. I think I even had some money on Brad in that fight. But, you know, he's kind of plagued by injuries, doesn't fight very regular, and he's been chin-checked a few times. You had Tim Boach put him away, Robert Whittaker put him away. You know, it was surprising he managed to go to 5 rounds with Izzy. And then he comes into the Edmen fight, gets put away quickly. So, you know, look, the kid's clearly talented, but, you know, we've seen him go past round 1 once, and it became a mess. But he's young. He's going to be improving. The Darren Stewart fight was nearly 2 years ago. He was only, probably 20 years of age. So, no, I'm not writing the kid off here. He could be a legitimate prospect, the next big thing. But, you know, before I start betting someone at minus 300, there needs to be a series of boxes ticked. And this kid doesn't have them ticked. That's the Stewart fight's the only fight where he's been out of round 1. He's never been past, besides that fight, he's never been past 3 minutes, 16 seconds of round 1, and that was his second pro fight. You know, and he's got a veteran here, Derek Brunson. Now, you know, people are probably looking at Brunson's record and seeing he's got 5 knockout losses from his 7 defeats. Yeah, he's 36 years of age, but Brunson's definitely his toughest test to date. Brunson trains with at Stanford now with Henry Hoof's team. He used to be at Jackson Wink, and then he started doing like his own camp, and he's been at Stanford. Definitely his last fight. I'm not sure if he was there for the Elias fight, but he went through a phase where he fell in love with his hands. You know, he's a very good wrestler, Derek Brunson. I remember betting Yoel Romero against him years ago, back in 2014, and yeah, wrestled Romero. He was 2 rounds up going into the 3rd round, and lucky for me, Brunson gassed out and Romero got the round 3 finish. But then if we quickly look through his record, then fight after that he beat Lorenz Larkin. He wrestled Lorenz Larkin for 3 rounds, and then he went on a KO spree, and I kind of jumped on the bandwagon with betting him, because I bet him against Ed Herman. He got the quick win there. I bet him against Sam Alvey. He got the quick win there. I bet him against Canero. He got the quick win there. And I bet him against Uriah Hall. He got the quick win there. All these fights literally under kind of 2.5 minutes. And then I think I bet him against Robert Whittaker, and the wheels came off. He came out bazooka mode again. He'd obviously, you know, he'd reeled off 4 KO wins in a row. He obviously started to think he was untouchable. The guy always carries his chin really high when he does these, you know, these spurts where he just throws loads and loads of punches, but he'd gotten away with it. And then against Rob Whittaker, it didn't work out. Anderson Silva, he went back to a bit more of a wrestling strategy, and he should have won that fight. Anderson got a bit of a gift decision there. And then a couple of quick KO wins again. Daniel Kelly and Lyoto Machida, both, you know, Lyoto was faded at that point. Daniel Kelly, you know, tough guy, but, you know, old. you know, someone like Derek Brunson with his athleticism was always going to be a tough fight for him. And then Ronaldo Souza knocked him out, caught him with a head kick. And then Izzy, you know, he looked pretty terrified in that fight. If Izzy was getting a bit desperate for his takedowns and ended up getting knocked out for his troubles. But he's had a couple of good wins. Elias Theodoro managed a decision. And then he's coming off a good win over Ian Heinisch. So this is definitely a test for Edmen. Derek, I imagine, he's not going to come out trying to do his blitz here. I think he's definitely going to try and get the wrestling going, try and slow Edmen down, try and wear him out, test his cardio. It's the smart thing to do. We've only seen him go the distance once, and Edmen struggled. And it was through wrestling. I mean, guessed that from wrestling. He couldn't get Stewart down or controlled him a lot against the fence, but when he got Stewart down, Stewart would get back to his feet. He's not going to be able to take Brunson down. Brunson's a very good wrestler. So I think Brunson's going to come out and try and lean on him, try and wear him out, try and make this a dogfight. He needs to fight smart. He doesn't want to be training with a guy. You know, he's been knocked out 5 times. Edmen's going to have the advantage there. So at these odds, I don't have a proper read on Edmen yet because I just, you know, I can't go off someone that's got round 1 wins. I think the line's too wide. So at these odds, I have to go with Derek Brunson, experienced veteran. He's shown that he can use some fight IQ. You know, in his last couple of fights, he's fought smarter. He's at a proper camp now. I'm sure they're going to come out here with a smart strategy. He could get caught early, cold. Wouldn't shock me. But the deeper the fight goes, I think the more it favours Brunson. And, you know, the guy's a legitimate wrestler. If he can come out and slow Edmen down, the fight could get very interesting round 2 onwards. So I'm going to pick Derek Brunson here. He shouldn't be this big a favourite. Everyone's parlaying Edmen up. And as I said, Edmen could be the next big thing. But for every next big thing, there's a handful of not next big things. And I think over the course of a year, I think fading these big hype jobs would pay. I think you'd definitely profit from it. And I think the books have got this one just too wide. And I really hope this goes past round 1 as well. Because if Edmen comes out and smarts him in round 1, it's just not answering any questions at all. So I really want this fight to go past round 1. Let's see how Edmen's cardio holds up. Let's see if he can adapt in a fight. Let's just get some questions ticked. But if he goes in and blows him away in round 1, I mean, obviously it depends on who he gets next. But the hype's going to start to get a bit crazy, and you're probably going to get a chance to fade Edmen again at even juicier odds. So, you know, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes that hype job is the next big thing, like someone like Izzy Adesanya. But Izzy wasn't getting respect from the books for quite a while. It took for him to get respect. So I wouldn't even call him a hype job that lived up to it. You know, you get so many young kids that come in. It always happens with a round 1. The kids that win quick in round 1, they always get hyped unjustly normally. But who knows? He could be the next big thing. But you know, value is value, guys. As I've said, Edmen is minus 300 odd. So the books are saying he's going to win the fight. You know, we're talking 70-75% of the time. He hasn't proven that to me that he can go out there and beat a veteran like Brunson if they fought 10 times, 7.5 times out of 10. So I'm picking Derek Brunson here. I think the value's with him. Would I be shocked if Edmen wins? No, of course not. Derek has shown he's vulnerable. He can be stopped, but I do think he'll have a smart game plan here. But if he gets caught on that chin, he could get put down. Edmen's obviously got power. So I will go with Derek Brunson, final pick. So if you want to sign up to the package, guys, ProMMABetting.com, £195 for the year. As I said, we've got boxing live betting on Friday night. We've got boxing live betting on Saturday night before the UFC. And then we've got live betting for the UFC. Come and jump on. We've got 160 plus members in the Discord community. Lots of knowledgeable guys on there. Chat goes on all day. If you want to discuss fights, you can. Guys there from all over the world. So there's chat constantly, 24 hours a day going on in there. Won £14,500 last year if you risk £100 per unit. So that's me done for this card. I'll be back next week for the Ollie Neck Derek Lewis card. We've got Bellator next week as well, I think. So good luck with your bets, guys. Any questions? My DMs are open on Twitter at Pro MMA Betting. Speak soon. Goodbye.